Once again, welcome everyone to our weekly program. And today we're going to be continuing the session on Isopanishad, Sri Isopanishad, and verse number 4. Let's begin with the pranam mantras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya, Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidantang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vadamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanasute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Pancha Kalpatarupesha Krupa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanang Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Vanuswaminiti Namine Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swaminiti Namine Namo Yacharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayane Gaurakata Damodaya Nagaragramatarine Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalang Pangum Langayate Girinyat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Shri Isopanishad Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Samaved Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Bonamangal Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur. Hare Krishna. Can one of you please confirm if you're able to see my screen?
Clear, Prabhu. It is very clear.
Thank you, Prabhu. So this week, what we're going to be seeing is the verse number 4 of Isopanishad. Anejat ekam manaso javiyo nainat deva apnuvan purvam arshat tadhavatonnyan atyeti tishtat tashmin apo matarishva dadati. Anechadyekam manaso javiyo nainat deva apnuvan purvam arshat tadhavatonnyan atyeti tishtat tashmin apo matarishva dadati. If one of you kindly can read the word-to-word meaning, please.
Hare Krishna. Anejat fixed ekam one manasaha than the mind, jivayaha more swift, not enat the Supreme Lord, devaha the demigods like Indra, etc. Apnuvan can approach, purvam in front, arshat moving quickly, tat he, davataha those who are running, anyan others, atyeti surpasses, tishtahat remaining in one place, tasmin in him, apaha rain, Matarishva, the gods who control the wind and rain, Dadhati, supply.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Translation and purports by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Although fixed in his abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him, although in one place he controls those who supply the air and rain. He surpasses all in excellence. Purport. Through mental speculation, even the greatest philosopher cannot know the Supreme Lord, who is the absolute personality of Godhead. He can be known only by his devotees through his mercy. In the Brahma Samhita 5.34, it is stated that even if a non-devotee philosopher travels through space at the speed of the wind or the mind for hundreds of millions of years, he will still find that the absolute truth is far, far away from him. So, in the previous verses, verse number 2 and 3, we saw two things. One is, in the verse number 2, it told us about what are the, for somebody who does not want to die and a living being who has his eternal nature, how does he get bound into this material world? What are the different types of activities? What activities liberate? What activities bind them into this material world? And so on and so forth. And then in the next verse, that is verse number 3, we saw that it explains in the beginning about the killer of the soul. Even though the soul literally cannot be killed because of its nature of eternity, the killer of the soul is a person who lives an asuric life. What is an asuric life? That is very elaborately explained in the in a full chapter of divine and demoniac natures, chapter number 16 in the Bhagavad Gita, right? So we see that the difference between what human life is, and then we see what is the difference to the animal life, right? And how human life is very, very rare to attain. What are the difficulties of the animals and what are the difficulties of the human being? How do the difficulties of the animal kingdom get solved, and how the human being tries to solve their problems? That is something that was explained by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. And then finally, he mentions about the path of self-realization, and as a conclusion says that human beings are not meant for simply solving economic problems, but living and trying to get out of these problems permanently through the laws of nature that have been defined in the scriptures. So this was the conclusion that Srila Prabhupada brought about in the previous verse. In today's verse, he goes about to explain a little bit more, or Sri Isopanishad explains about who is that personality of Godhead. Why should we, what is his nature? Why should we get out of this place? By going to that, how is it going to be different, and so on. So here, although fixed in his abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him, although in one place he controls those who supply the air and rain. He surpasses all in excellence. Then in the purport, through mental speculation, even the greatest philosopher cannot know the Supreme Lord, who is the absolute personality of Godhead. He can be known only by his devotees through his mercy. And Srila Prabhupada quotes the verse from Sri Brahma Samhita. Let's look at that particular verse. Just give me a moment so I bring up that particular verse in front of you so that we can all follow through on that verse in terms of what we understand from the verse. So that is the Brahma Samhita is a very elaborate presentation, which is a Samhita. There are different types of literature, and Samhita is a type of literature where Brahmaji is glorifying the Lord. And there are so many chapters to it. And what we have access to is only the 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita, which was personally discovered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was visiting South India, one of the temples near Kerala, where he was visiting the place, and he found the original script of this Brahma Samhita, and that is how he brought this about to all of us today, right? This essentially, the Brahma Samhita, is an essence of all the Vedic literature. It's an essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Whatever is the conclusions that have been met there has been very has been given in a very capsulated form in the Sri Brahma Samhita. So in this particular verse, verse number 534, it says, Pantastu koti satavatsara sampragamyo vayor athapi manaso munipungavana sopyasti yat prabhada simni avichintya tatve govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. It says, Pantastu koti. Pantaha means path, right? Mahajanasena Gadasu Panta, we read, right? We have to follow in the footsteps of the Mahajanas. So Panta means path. And Koti Sata means thousands of millions, which means actually, even though it is representatively said as Koti Sata, it actually means that it is unlimited, right? Vatsara Sampragamyaha, it's extending over. That is explained in the various scriptures that, if one wants to attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead or understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or understand the absolute truth, and that is what is being referred in today's sloka, right? What is the reference here? The personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all other runnings. So he is the Supreme Absolute Truth, and that is what Srila Prabhupada says is the absolute personality of Godhead. And that nature of the absolute personality of Godhead and how to attain him, or how difficult it is to attain him, is what is being described in this particular verse. What it says, if one is on the path, which path? The path to trying to understand this avichinta tattva, the tattva, the supreme absolute truth that is generally very difficult to understand. For how long? Vayor athapi manasor. That is, if one was traveling at the speed of wind, vayu, or if one is traveling at the speed of mind, how fast the mind can travel. Wind, of course, we can understand, right? We can measure. Is it easy to measure the speed of the mind? Right now we are sitting here in Dubai. We want to think about back our family in India. It's just a flash of, fraction of a second. We can be in India, in the place that we were, thinking about how we were with so and so and so on and so forth. Right? We can very quickly travel. It just with a flash, it can travel. And what is the speed of mind? That is how the speed of mind is. You want to go the same. If you, instead of thinking India, you want to go to America, and in the next moment or in a fraction of a moment, we could be there. But the distances are very different. They are very different distances between here and there. But still, we could just travel there within a fraction of a moment, regardless of whatever is the distance that is, that we are traveling. Right? Even if we travel in that speed of the mind, avichinta tattve, that one cannot understand the tattva or the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And who are we talking about here who are trying to do this? He says, Muni Pungavanam. There are munis or rishis, great jnanis. They are worshipping many thousands of years and many lifetimes. They are practicing this process of traveling, controlling the vayu, controlling the mind, everything that they are trying to, and they are traveling with that speed. But still, they cannot. And they are not ordinary munis. Srimad Brahma Samhita here says, Muni Pungavanam. Muni Pungavaha means the most expert, or the form. Here, Srila Prabhupada uses the word, the foremost, which means somebody who is already accomplished. Now, we all know the process of Jnana Yoga or Hatha Yoga or the Ashtanga Yoga is not a very easy process. It has to be performed for many thousands of years in terms of trying to control the mind, control the wind, which means the breathing process. If it has to be controlled, it takes a long time, right? Which means they literally live for thousands of years, and they would have practiced that for many lifetimes, that they are trying to achieve perfection in that, right? But here, it is not referring to those who are still trying. The reference here is about the ones who have already achieved certain level of perfection in terms of controlling the wind or the mind, right? Even for those, avichinta tattve, it is beyond their conception, is what is being. And who is beyond the conception? the original person, Adi Purusham. And who is that original person? Govinda. That is being referenced here. So if we come back to the verse here today, he says that the Supreme Lord, who is the absolute personality of Godhead. Who is that Supreme Lord, the original personality of Godhead? That is Govinda. If we want to understand that Govinda, right, even if we are an accomplished yogi and travel at the speed of wind or mind, it is not very easy to get there, right? And then Srila Prabhupada moves on to another verse. The Brahma Samhita further describes that the absolute personality of Godhead has his transcendental abode known as Goloka, where he remains and engages in his pastimes. Yet, by his inconceivable potencies, he can simultaneously reach every part of his creative energy, right? So let's move on to the next verse that Srila Prabhupada is referring here. But before we move on there, the question comes as to how is it possible then, if it is not possible to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by traveling, or a great Jnani trying to travel at the speed of mind or the speed of wind, if he cannot achieve it, then what is the process by which one can understand it? And that answer is also given in the Brahma Samhita, right? That is saying that Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santas Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yang Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami, he says. So Brahmaji explains, saying that what is the qualification then, if we have to understand that avichintya tattva, if we have to understand that tattva which is generally not easily accessible or easily understandable, then what is the process? The process is, and the qualification is, one has to anoint his or her eyes with the ointment of prema, love for Godhead or love for Krishna. So if one can anoint his eyes with the love for Krishna, prema anjana, the ointment of love, bhakti vilochanena, which is attained by the process of bhakti, and then what happens as an outcome of it, when bhakti sprouts, santaha, they are called santas, and sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti, they are constantly thinking about Krishna. Sadaiva means satatam kirtayanto mam yadantascha dhrudavrta. So they're always thinking about Krishna 24/7, Srila Prabhupada translates. Now, how is it possible that one can really think about God or Krishna 24/7? It is possible that if you eat for Krishna, if you sleep for Krishna, if you work for Krishna, if you serve for Krishna, if you act for Krishna, then it is 24/7, Srila Prabhupada says. So if one simply engages with one goal in mind to please Krishna and do all activities around that, then it is possible that one can perform this Krishna consciousness. Satatam kirtayanto mam, ar santaha sadaiva hridayeshu, in their hearts, vilokayanti. Who do they have in their hearts all the time? Who are they meditating on? Yam Shama Sundaram. They meditate on that Shama Sundara form of the Lord. Achintya Gunaswarupam, right? His form is not so easily understandable. His achintya means inconceivable. He has guna and he has rupa, right? He has his original form and he has a lot of qualities. Don't think that Supreme Lord, whom they are trying to meditate upon, Santaha Sadaiva Hridayeshu, because they are thinking within their Hridaya that Lord is sitting somewhere. Does he have a form? Is he a light? Is he just sound? What is he? Right? They don't speculate. They know very clearly. Vasudevaha sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. They understand that Vasudeva is sarvam. He is present there and he is present here. And that is the core of the point that is being discussed in today's verse, that although fixed in his abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind. Shyam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. But where is that Shama Sundara? That Shama Sundara is in Goloka Vrindavana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, what does he say? He says, Tad Dhama Vrindavanam. His Dhamma is Vrindavana. Aradhyo Bhagavan. You have to worship Bhagavan. Who's Bhagavan? Shama Sundara is the Bhagavan. And who's that person? Shama Sundara. He is Brajesha Tanayaha. He is Braja Isha Tanayaha, means the one who is the Isha of Braja. Who is the Isha of Braja? Braj, it is Nanda Maharaj. So the son of Nanda Maharaj is who? He is Govinda or Shama Sundara. So that Shamashundra, where does he live? He lives in Tadhama Vrindavanam. His address is Vrindavanam, right? So very clearly defining everything, that they are not just speculating in their mind about the Lord. They know where the Lord is and how the Lord is expanding and how he is present. Vasudevaha Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. So that can be understood only by the process of bhakti, by which one gets that ointment of love, which is anointed in their eyes, and then they will be able to see the Lord, who is generally not easily approachable. The Brahma Samhita 5.37, further he goes, what is the nature of that Lord who is sitting there, that Shamshundra who's sitting there in the Goloka Vrindavana, right? And what is the description about? He says, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavis Thabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalapihi Goloka Eva Nivashatya Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. He says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm called Goloka. What is his own realm? Tadhama Vrindavanam. That Vrindavana is Goloka Vrindavana, right? And who is he residing there with? He is residing there with Srimati Radharani, right? Resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities in the company of her confidentes. This is a beautiful translation that has been given by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, who is the spiritual master of our very dear founder Acharya of ISKCON, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So we can see how he uses the language here. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord. The primeval Lord means Anahadiradir Govinda, the original Lord, residing in his own realm. Now he is not residing in anybody else's place. He is not a tenant, right? He is situated in his own place. He is the owner. He is Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutam. So he is the Bhokta, he is the Sarvaloka Maheshwara. And so he has his own realm. And he is not only that realm he is the owner of, he is the owner of everything that is seen, right? Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, he is so. And who is he residing there with? He is residing there with Radha. And who is Radha? Radha is his own figure spiritually. He is resembling his own spiritual figure. So what does that mean? It means that she is an embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, right? So which means we have to understand what is this potency and what is this energy, and that is what is being referred to in the verse here. What is it said? That the Brahma Samhita further describes that the absolute personality of Godhead has his transcendent abode known as Goloka, where he remains and engages in his pastimes, yet by his inconceivable potencies, he can simultaneously reach every part of his creative energy, right? So here we come through another terminology called potency. Now, what are the potencies of the Lord, right? That one has to understand, right? We all understand Srimati Radharani. Can anybody say what is Srimati Radharani? Which potency of Krishna is Srimati Radharani?
Internal potency, Prabhu. Hladini Shakti.
Hladini Shakti. Okay, fantastic, Vasant Prabhu. Thank you. So what are the other potencies of the Lord?
Prabhu, Tatastha Shakti and Bahiranga Shakti.
Okay, what is Tatastha Shakti and what is Bahiranga Shakti?
Tatastha Shakti are the Jivatmas, from where the Jivatmas come, and Bahiranga is the material energy, Prakriti, Durga Devi.
I'm sorry, Prabhu, say that again.
Okay, sorry. Tatastha Shakti is from where the Jivas come, from where we come, and Bahiranga is the material energy.
Bahiranga is the material energy. Can you explain the material energy a little bit more and Tatastha Shakti?
Bahiranga Shakti is basically from where the whole material universe is being created, and it works on the three modes. So basically we can further divide it into three modes: Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. And in Tatastha it is from where the Jivas come in, the Jivatmas, all the
Why
living
is it
souls.
called Tatastha Shakti?
Because it is technically neither in the spiritual, it is origin neither in the material world. So though it is pure consciousness, it is kind of the border. So we have the option to either jump into the spiritual world or to jump into the material world?
Fantastic. So the word tatastha refers that one is in the margin, right? Is neither here. It's like a cat on the wall. You can jump this side or this side. There's a choice that one can make, and which is the reason why the jiva is called as Tatastha Shakti. So we know that the Lord has multiple such Shaktis. So we had Vashant Prabhu say that there is internal potency. So there is internal, and then there is external potency, and then there is something in between, which is the Tatastha Shakti. So there are three Shaktis. So does Krishna have only three Shaktis? No, he has many, many Shaktis. Srila Prabhupada says, describes saying that his Shaktis are so many that they're unlimited. You cannot count them. In one place it is described that if the Lord expands through his Shaktis, if you can count the number of waves, if you go and sit in the beach of an ocean, can you count? We have all been to Jagannath Puri and we sit there in the beach and then we enjoy the beach there. Is it possible to count the number of waves that are coming in the ocean? It's practically impossible, to count them. So that many avatars or that many Shaktis are what is expanding from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they are Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. He says Parasya Shakti, the Shakti of the Lord is many and Vividaiva. It is just expanding in various forms in various ways for various purposes and destinations, right? For the purposes that the Lord defines, they just expand like that. So that Supreme Lord has many, many Shaktis, and one of his Shakti is the internal Shakti, which is Srimati Radharani, with whom he resides there in the Goloka Vrindavana. So let me park that for one moment. Let's go back to the purport here. Then further here he says, where he remains and engages in his pastimes, yet by his inconceivable potencies, he can simultaneously reach every part of his creative energy. So Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna can simultaneously, this is the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that we generally, our nature is that, or any of the living entities, when we talk about living entities, we are talking about anybody who is other than the Supreme Lord. What is the nature? Somebody who is other than the Supreme Lord, he can or she can be present only at one place at the same time, right? Some very empowered souls may be able to be present, in two places. We also see examples of great personalities like Sri Hanumanji. He can be present in more than one place at the same time. Of course, that is a very exceptional, special blessing from the Supreme Lord. Like that, there are personalities who are great personalities who are eternally in the service of the Lord, who can be present in more than one place. But generally speaking, Krishna is the only one who can be present in every place, right? And that is what is being brought about here. His inconceivable potency is that he can simultaneously reach every part. So one is, key word is simultaneous and every part. These are the two important points here, right? That he can be at the same time. When he had 16,108 wives in Dwaraka, Narada Muni was approaching, Dwaraka to visit Krishna. And he went to one of the palaces of Sri Rukmini Devi, and he could see very nicely, wonderfully how Krishna and Rukmini Devi were, very happy to serve Naradaji. And then he leaves, immediately goes to, Narada is, Sarva Loka Sanchari, he can simply just move to places at the speed of his mind. He just thinks in the next place, he'll be there. Immediately he's there in the place of Satyabhama. There also Krishna is there. And he goes to all the other, queens, the chief of them, 108, and then the 16,000. Krishna is present in every house. So he is present everywhere and simultaneously, right? And those are the important qualities of the Lord and the inconceivable potencies of the Lord. In the Vishnu Purana, his potencies are compared to the heat and light, right? That emanate from a fire. Why compared to the heat and light? Because they also have similar nature. What is that nature? Although situated in one place, a fire can distribute its light and heat for some distance. We see the presence of the sun, right? Now, generally places where the sun doesn't have its fire or its heat or its light come in, those are not places that can be inhabited. Now, where is that sun? That is very, very far away. right? But still, because of that sun's presence, we can feel the, heat. If you're in Dubai, you can feel too much heat. If you're in a different place, you feel less heat or even more heat, or so on and so forth. And the light is also very different. The intensity of light is also very different in different places. So similarly, the Lord is also present. Of course, this is just for us to understand, the presence of the Lord in every place. That does not mean that, in the intensity of the heat, like for example, the heat that emanates from the sun might be limited in a certain place because of the distance. But that is not a limitation that we can apply to the Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord cannot be at any point in time limited to anything. That is the nature of the Supreme Lord. And that is why the verse 5.37 begins by one important and very pertinent word. What is that? This is called Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, right? Ananda Chinmaya Rasa means it's something that cannot be explained. It is Chinmaya, right? Chinmaya means something that is, there is something called gross, and then there is something called subtle, and there is something called Chinmaya or Achintya, something which cannot be explained by mere words. The Shastras use the word Achintya or Anivachaniya, right? There's a beautiful word, that I was coming through when I was, referring some, material on this. So Anivachaniya means that cannot be explained by, mundane words. So it says. So that is the nature of the Lord, his place, his activities, his form, and so on and so forth, right? Again, we'll come to that point just in a moment. Now, the next thing that we read is about the example that Srila Prabhupada gives, fire, and how it produces light and heat, and how it can cover distances. Similarly, the absolute personality of Godhead, although fixed in his transcendental abode, can diffuse his different energies everywhere. And that is what is explained by that verse, that the Lord is many Shaktis, Vividaiva Shruyate, right? So all these Shaktis he spreads across in different places. Although his energies are innumerable, they can be divided into three principal categories. And that is what, we just discussed. We had Vasant Prabhu say, Srimati Radharani representing the internal potency, which is Hladini Shakti. And what is Hladini Shakti? Hladini Shakti is one part of his internal potency, which is called as Antaranga Shakti. So the Antaranga Shakti of the Lord divides into three subcategories, which are Hladini Shakti, Samvit Shakti, and Sandhini Shakti, right? So we see that one of the Shakti, Hladini Shakti, is the representation and the personification of Srimati Radharani. And of course, from her expands many Shaktis, all the different Shakti Rupas that we say, like Parashakti, so many forms of Durga, Lakshmi Devi, and all of those personalities, they all expand from Srimati Radharani. Now, of course, we have Sandhini Shakti and Samvit Shakti. So we have, the expansion from Krishna into Balarama. And that is all. The entire creation, both spiritual and the material, everything is taken care by Balaram. The only thing Krishna does is he expands into Srimati Radharani for his pleasure. And for the creation of both spiritual worlds and the material worlds, he expands into Balarama. And what does Balaram do? He expands again into his Chaturvyuha, right? Which is the primary Chaturvyuha, which is Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Again, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. From there, Sankarshana expands into Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, which is the second quadruple expansion, right? And again, from Sankarshana expands another expansion, which is the Karanodakashai Vishnu. Karanodakashai Vishnu is the one who is the Paramatma of the entire material cosmic manifestation. So there are different Paramatmas. We have Paramatma who's there in our heart. Sarvasya chaham hriddi sannivishto. In our hriddi, somebody is seated. He is the Paramatma. So we see that there is Krishna. Krishna expands into Balarama. Balarama expands into the first quadruple expansion. Again, another second quadruple expansion. And then from Sankarshana of the second quadruple expansion, we see that he further expands into Karanodakashai Vishnu, or sometimes called as Mahavishnu. right? And Karanodakashaya Vishnu, he creates this entire material cosmic manifestation, right? Where he simply glances into open space, and there forms a cloud. And in the cloud, he injects the different elements, right, from the pradhana. What are the elements that he injects into the creation? Can anybody say?
Prabhu, I recollect one. Is it time? One is time, right, Prabhu?
One is time. Very good, Prabhu. So what are the other 23 items?
Uh, is it about senses, Prabhu?
Yes,
Gyanendriya, Karmendriya?
that is correct. Perfect, Prabhu. So we have the the five basic elements, which are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And then what happens? That is five. And then you said the senses, which are Jnanendriya and Karmaendriya, that make it 15. And then
We have Tanmatras, 5 Tanmatras.
what are Tanmatras?
They are like sense, basically subtle, from which our senses can perceive form.
Right. The Tanmatras are basically objects of the senses. Basically, Tanmatras, there is the Jnanendriya, there is the Karmaendriya, and their matras, their respective objects that can be perceived, they are called as Tanmatras. So that make it the 20 elements. And then we have Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar, 23. And the 24th element he injects as the time element. Very nice, Sant Gopeshwar Prabhu. So we have the 24th element that is being injected. And once the 24th element of time, Kala, is injected, then the whole cosmic manifestation starts functioning. Otherwise, until at that point in time when the Kala is injected, the entire cosmic manifestation, which is begun by Karanodakashaya Vishnu, is in a suspended animation form, which means there is no action. Everything is in calm fashion, right? And the moment Kala is injected, automatically it starts lub dub, lub dub. The entire cosmic manifestation starts working, right? And then we have the Lord, coming in. I mean, of course, before the Lord, the jivas are all injected into the various, planets within the cosmic manifestation. And then that is the 25th element. And we have the 26th, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, who expands and he enters into every one of those living entities. So we see that the whole creation is being formed, right? So we have the Karanodakashaya Vishnu, and then the whole cloud is formed. And what is this cloud? This cloud is the place where there are Koti Brahmandas. Again, when we use the word Koti, it does not mean exactly 1 crore. It means that there are unlimited, it cannot be counted. How many are there? There are as many as there are pores in the body of Mahavishnu. Now, what is the size of Mahavishnu? Again, inconceivable, right? So if we can't even count the number of pores in our body, right? How can we count the number of pores in Mahavishnu's body? So there are as many Brahmandas. Now, what is a Brahmanda? A Brahma Anda. There is one Brahma, and there is a egg-shaped, whole body, which is called the Anda, Brahmanda. So what is a Brahmanda? In that egg-shaped, creation, there are 14 planetary systems. And what is that? We are right now sitting in the Bhumandala or Bhuloka, right? We have Bhuloka, which is in the Bhumandala, like that there are several mandalas which are above us, and there are several mandalas that are below us. So we have Bhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam, like that. We have, different lokas that are above us. And then we have Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala, like that there are. So there are 14 planetary systems that are there in the entire creation, right? So this is one Brahmanda, right? And in that Brahmanda, there is one Bhuloka. And in that Bhuloka, there are so many khandas, right? Right now we call it the continents or, whatever, right? And then we have, in that continent, we are in a small country, UAE or India or whatever. And then we are there in one city. And then we are there in one, town within that city. And within that town in a one house. And then we are sitting in the house as one entity. And how many entities in the house? Of course, human entities might be 5, but there are literally millions of other living entities living in that house, right? We think we are the owners of the house, but actually there are so many other living entities sitting here and owning the house. They have been there permanently. Even if you are evicted after your rental is over, they are sitting there without paying anything. So many of those living entities are automatically taken care of. So they're all sitting there. So these living entities, and Krishna is present in every one of those living entities, including the human living entities sitting in that house. So can we imagine what is the nature, the Achintya Gunaswarupam of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And as to how he is Chinmaya, right? He is full of Chinmaya Rasa, right? And that is what is being explained here. The internal potency, so which is the Supreme Lord, wherein he expands into Srimati Radharani and then expands into Sri Balaram, and the various other forms within the spiritual world. So we see that that is the internal potency of the Lord. And then there is the marginal potency, which is the jivas who are injected into the Brahmandas that are created. And then we have the external potency of the, where all of these, marginal potency, the Tata Shakti jivas are given an opportunity to live, which is the external potency of the Lord, or the Bahiranga, the cosmic manifestation where everybody is living, right? So practically there are hundreds and millions of subheadings to each of these categories. The dominating demigods who are empowered to control and administer such natural phenomena as air, light, and rain are all classified within the marginal potency of the absolute person. And the Supreme Lord, who is the absolute person, who is sitting in Goloka, is controlling the air, the light, the rain of every single of this Brahmanda, and there are millions and millions of them. So he has his agents who are controlling all of them. And they simply, when Krishna says, oh, rain fall here, rain should fall there. It is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam as to how, out of fear for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Devatas have to fulfill their duties so stringently, right? That is how the Lord is, controlling, manifesting. So when we read the word Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, it's not a very easy thing to understand. Vasudeva has Sarvamiti means it's not a very easy. That is why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Gyanavan Mam Prapaddate Vasudeva has Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. He says, right? Bahunam Janmanam. So to understand this kind of personality of Godhead, one has to take many, many millions of lifetimes. Otherwise, one cannot understand, right? So the material world is the creation of the Lord's external potency. And the spiritual sky where the kingdom of God is situated is a manifestation of his internal potency. Thus, the different energies of the Lord are present everywhere. Although the Lord and his energies are non-different, one should not mistake these energies for the supreme truth, right? Now, Srila Prabhupada brings another aspect to it. Now, everything is his energy, which means what? This computer is his energy, the mouse is his energy, right? The camera is his energy, the watch is his energy, everything is energy. So can we start trying and understanding what this watch is, and then try and equate it to see, oh, this watch is also the energy of the Lord. So if I understand this watch, then I can understand the Lord. And then I can limit everything about the Lord according to what this watch is. And that is called as Frog's philosophy. Srila Prabhupada used to say, Dr. Frog's philosophy. What is Dr. Frog's philosophy? And there was a frog that was living in a well. And there was another cousin frog of his, who came traveling from the Atlantic Ocean and, came for vacation. And he traveled into this well and he was meeting up with this frog and said, hey, my dear friend, how are you doing? And all that. He said, oh, it's been a long time since I saw you. You came from the, in a bigger place, how is, just like if we have somebody coming from the US, we try to inquire, how is the place? Is it beautiful? Is it raining there? Is it snowing there? We tend to ask. So similarly, this frog, from the well was asking the other frog, the description about oh, don't even imagine. The place where I live is so huge. Your place is like a small dungeon, but my place is very, very big. So the the frog in the well was asking the other frog from the Atlantic Ocean, saying that how big is it? Is it 10 times bigger than this? He said, no, even bigger. And then he says, is it 100 times bigger? No, even bigger. You cannot understand. And he's continuously saying some numbers, and the other frog was almost laughing. say, come on, what are you trying to do? Is it even possible for you to, assess it, from where you're living, in a ridiculing way? So similarly, if we try to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead from just one of his manifestations, as to, in comparison with that, trying to think, oh, can the Lord be like this, like that? It is not possible to understand. And that nature of the Lord is called as achintya or anirvachaniya, right? That one cannot understand the Lord so easily, right? Then, nor should one wrongly consider the Supreme Lord is distributed everywhere impersonally. So the next point that he makes is, right, it is because he is present in different energies, don't think that all those energies are the same as the Lord, but he is present there. That is point number one. Then the next point is, also do not think that he is impersonal, because, this matter is an expansion. Let's say this pen is an expansion of the Lord. This pen doesn't have life. So the Lord also, maybe he doesn't have life. You cannot speculate like that. So he's not impersonal. Or that he loses his personal existence. Or thinking that when this energy separates from him, he loses his identity, right? That also is wrong to be considered. So men are accustomed to reaching conclusions according to their capacity for understanding. Just like we saw the example of the frog. He could only think according to the capacity of the well. So 100 times, 1,000 times, 100,000 times, and so on. So it is an X factor of what he can conceive, his capacity. But the Supreme Lord is not subject to our limited capacity for understanding. It is for this reason that the Upanishads warn us that no one can approach the Lord by his own limited potency. So in the Bhagavad Gita 10.2, the Lord says that not even the great rishis and suras can know him. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatasi siddhaye yadatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha, right? And then further he says, Name viduhu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshayah aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasaha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages, right? Nobody can understand the Supreme Lord. Then he says, Manushyanam sahasreshu. But even if somebody tries to understand, kaschid yatati siddhaye, and even if they become perfect in their understanding, yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha, that there is amongst those people who tried and who even attained certain level of perfection, even those perfected people cannot understand me in my completeness. Tattvataha, in its completeness, it's very difficult to understand. That is the nature of the Lord. What to speak of the asuras then? Even if the rishis and suras are trying and they can only go so far, what to speak of the asuras, for whom there is no question of understanding the ways of the Lord? This fourth mantra of Sri Isopanishad very clearly suggests that the absolute truth is ultimately the absolute person. Otherwise, there would have been no need to mention so many details in support of his personal features. Although the individual parts and parcels of the Lord's potencies have all the symptoms of the Lord himself, they have limited spheres of activity. Now we are also a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, but we will not be able to be as unlimited as the Supreme Lord himself. We are all parts and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm trying to recollect the Bhagavad Gita verse, if one of you can help. What is the verse that says that we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
Mamaivam Jiva Loke Prabhu.
Mamaiva Mam Eva Amsaha. Thank you, Prabhu. So he says Mam Eva Angsaha. So we are all Angsas. Of whom? Mam Eva. Of me, Krishna says. Mamaiva Amso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutaha Sanatanaha. They are also Sanatana, just like me, these Jiva Bhutas. And they are all, because they are all Amsas of me. They are all parts and parts of me. But does not mean that because they are part and parcels, they are as good as me, right? But they have limited, in terms of quantity, but they are also in similar nature in terms of my quality. So here he says, they have limited spheres of activity and are therefore all limited. The parts and parcels are never equal to the whole. Therefore, they cannot appreciate the Lord's full potency. Under the influence of material nature, foolish and ignorant living beings who are but parts and parcels of the Lord try to conjecture about the Lord's transcendental position. Sri Isopanishad warns of the futility of trying to establish the identity of the Lord through mental speculation. So what one has to understand is that, okay, now you are just carrying us, right? that, oh, this Lord is so unlimited, he expands into multifarious forms and we are just nothing in that whole creation. And it is so difficult to, and Krishna himself says, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, Kaschin Mamveti Tattvataha, that hardly one knows me in truth. Then what is our condition, Prabhu? How are we going to understand? Yes, if you are trying to understand, you will never be able to understand. But how? Through mental speculation. If you try to understand that Supreme Lord through mental speculation, then you cannot understand. Avichinta Tattve. But if you try to understand Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, Santaha Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Syama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarup. Then you can understand this Achintya Guna and Swarupa very easily, understand that he is that Shyamashundara. You can understand how, but Bhakti Vilochanena, which forms into Prema. That is the process by which you can understand, but not the process of mental speculation. So it is possible to understand the Lord, but the process is different, not the process that we think. That our process we think is we can try and understand just like the frog through our own mental capabilities. That is not possible. One should try to learn of the transcendence from the Lord himself, the supreme source of the Vedas. For the Lord alone has full knowledge of the transcendence. Right? So in the Bhagavad Gita, in the first verse, 7th chapter, what does he say? Trying to recollect the verse. Yeah. Mayi ashakta manaha pata yogam yunjan madasrayaha. Asankshayam samagram mam yatagnyakshasi tatsrunu, he says, Krishna. Right? He says, Mayi ashakta manaha pata, partha, with love for me, if you want to understand me in completeness, asankshaya, which means without any doubt. Asankshayam samagram mam, he uses two words. One is ashankshaya, which means without any sankshaya, which means without any doubt. Samagram, which means in its completeness, right? Completely understand. Vasudevaha sarvamiti, to understand in its completeness. Yatagnyakshashi, if you want to understand that knowledge, tachrunu, you first listen from me. So you have to hear. Srimad Bhagavatam, what does it say? Srinvatang swakada Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha hridyantasto hyavadra. He says, so Srinvatang, again it says Srinu or Srinvatam. You have to listen, hear. What should you hear? Swakata Krishna. Either hear the one directly told by me or the ones that has been told by, my devotees about me, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. So either you listen to Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, it says. So one should try to learn of the transcendence from who? Either from the Lord himself. Now Arjuna was very fortunate and the Lord was there, right there. So he could learn it directly from the Lord. If we think that, oh, the Lord is not here, how will I learn? Of course, the Lord is there within our heart. He is teaching us. We do not want to recognize him as being present there. So he comes out in the form of a guru. And then he represents in the form of something that you can understand, right? Oh, when I see the form of a guru and he is speaking, I can understand him. Then I will listen to him. But I will not listen to this unheard voice from within my heart, who is the Supreme Lord, because we still don't understand him. So he comes out in the form of a guru. And then he explains, the supreme knowledge. And that is how we understand. So, tadviddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshantite jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshana. That person who is representing as the guru, he is jnaninaha, he is completely knowledgeable. How can he be knowledgeable? He is also like me, he is also a human being, he also has limited nature. Just now you said, the living beings are limited. How can that guru alone be unlimited, or how can he be different from me? That is because he is Tattva Darshanaha, because he has already experienced the truth directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself directly, right? Through the Guru Parampara, right? So that is the understanding that generally the living entities are of that limited nature, but then they can understand it by properly having darshan of the Supreme. So Tattva Darshinaha, so he can give it. So every part and parcel of the complete whole is endowed with some particular energy to act according to the Lord's will. When the part and parcel living entity forgets his particular activities under the Lord's will, he is considered to be in Maya. Thus, from the very beginning, Sri Isopanishad wants us to be very careful to play the part designated for us by the Lord. So, like we saw, Santa Gopeshwar Prabhu was explaining the Tata Shakti. The Tata Shakti is what? is cat on the wall. You can choose whether you want this or that. And that is called illusion, right? Oh, should I choose this? Should I choose that? Oh, this one looks very luring to me. I will go for this, and that's illusion. That is why Isopanishad is warning us, you have to choose the right thing. Because he is part and parcel of the Lord, he must partake of the initiative of the Lord as well. So that is the recommendation. What is the recommendation? Oh, if you are confused about whether you should choose this or that, you should first think, what is the knowledge? Oh, I am part and parcel of the Supreme Personality. That is called as self-realization. So what is the first point in self-realization? Who am I? Where did I come from? Then we understand, Mama Evamso, Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. I am part and parcel of Krishna. So if I am part and parcel of Krishna, instead of serving Krishna, why am I serving something else? That we start to think. Now what happens if I start serving there? I can serve there, but that is also part of Krishna, but then that is temporary. I can serve here, this is Krishna himself, but this is permanent. This is like serving the water in the root, which takes care of the entire. So if I serve this, all of this is taken care. Then make the right choice. So when a person properly utilizes his initiative or active nature with intelligence, understanding that everything is the Lord's potency, he can revive his original consciousness, which was lost due to association with Maya. So here, Isopanishad gives, Srila Prabhupada gives us as to how we can revive our original consciousness. So which means that currently we are in a consciousness by which we are covered. Maya Javanika Achannam. He says we have been covered by the Javanika Achannam, by a covering or a screen or a curtain of Maya, right? Which was lost due to association with Maya. So all power is obtained from the Lord. Therefore, each particular power must be utilized to execute the will of the Lord and not otherwise. The Lord can be known by one who has adopted such a submissive service attitude. Perfect knowledge means knowing the Lord in all his features, knowing his potencies and knowing how these potencies work by his will. These matters are described by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, the essence of all the Upanishads. So here, it says in the last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, all power is obtained from the Lord. Therefore, we have to use it for the Lord's service and not otherwise. The Lord can be known by one who has adopted a submissive service attitude. Here is a new thing. That is, yes, you have to utilize it to the Lord, but do not be arrogant. Do not think, ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti mannate. Don't think that I am the doer when you're doing the activity, but think that, oh, I am doing this for the Lord. It's not in my own power that I'm doing it. Even that activity, if I want to do without the mercy of the Lord, Chaivam Daivatra Panchamam, without that fifth element of Lord being there in every activity, there is no possibility of me trying to satisfy the Lord. So that submissive service attitude is important. So perfect knowledge means knowing the Lord, not just in part, right? Oh, Krishna is the creator of all this nature, appreciating the nature. That is only one part of it, right? And then appreciating the whole cosmic manifestation. That is another level of it. Then one can appreciate his effulgence, which is the Brahman. And then one can appreciate the Paramatma who's guiding us from our hearts. So Paramatma. But ultimately, real knowledge means what? To understand the material world, the spiritual world, the relationship, what is our position, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that we should serve him, why we should serve him, and by serving him, what happens. To understand all of this in its completeness, that is real knowledge, not just one part of it. So, Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabhyate. There are three aspects by which you can understand the Lord. Simply understanding the Brahman is not enough. Simply understanding the Paramatma is not enough. One has to understand Bhagavan in its completeness as Vasudeva is Sarvamiti. That's why he says Samahatma Sudurlabha. So one has to understand this. Now, if this itself is not enough, what to speak of just knowing Krishna as the material nature or how beautiful the nature is and so on and so forth. That is not at all sufficient. One has to transcend this. So knowing his potencies and knowing how these potencies work by his will, these matters are described in the Bhagavad Gita in its elaborate nature. So it is the essence of all the Upanishad. That is why Bhagavad Gita is called as Gita Upanishad. Right? So I'm going to pause here for one moment and see if there are any questions so far. As I wanted to first go through the purport of Srila Prabhupada and try and understand that purport. I'm going to pause here to see if there are any reflections, comments, or any questions, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Dhanat, Prabhu. I'm Jagan here. Prabhu, thanks a lot. I just wanted to share one thing that we discussed during the intro session of the Isopanishad, because what you are telling. So let me, I hope I have the rights to. Okay, can I share, Prabhu? For
Yes,
one
Prabhu.
So because this is an important thing, which I thought we should. So when we are dealing with Isopanishad, the devotees who have read and analyzed the Isopanishad have told that like any other scripture, it basically deals with the three jnana, sambandha, abhideya, prayojana. I think today's quite substantial portion of your session also dealt with this. So if we have the capture of this division of the three jnanas in relation to the shlokas, it will be interesting. So I think predominantly we have talked about 4 and 5, right, today? Yeah.
We just did 4, Prabhu, actually.
Okay, did 4. So 4, it deals with sambandha, and 5 also deals with sambandha, and then prayojana comes in 6 and 7. So these things are very interestingly woven. So when we are conscious about this, this division, so when we read the purports, then we can still focus on that. So when we are dealing with 4, means we are trying to understand who are we, who is Lord, and what is the relationship between them, right? And when we move to 5th, after 5th, we move to 6 and 7, we see the benefit of it and what is the ultimate fruit of it. So I just wanted to kindly bring to the attention of the devotees this particular chart. So what I will do, Prabhu, if you permit me, I'll just put it in the chat also so that people can download and keep it as a reference. And then they can, when the shlokas go through, they can try to relate. So did we get?
Absolutely, Prabhu.
Yeah, fine, Prabhu. It's okay. So I'll go to the chat and I will try to put this. I hope the image comes. No, wait, can I paste image like Teams or I cannot? I'm not sure.
You can actually.
Anyway, I'll try to do that as you continue, Prabhu. Fine.
So I wanted to see if there were any other reflections or any comments or questions from any of the devotees who have been listening through. I'm sorry if I was just going in a very monotonous way, because generally I'm very used to having people on video and very interactive, sessions. But I know that you're all a little bit shy to come on video. So, so I was just going like a, like Dubai's driverless train. So anybody has any questions or anything that you would like to share so far from the discussion we had? Seems like a very silent audience today.
Absorbing what you have told, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
You were speaking on mute. I couldn't hear what you're saying.
No, they are absorbing what has been told. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Sure, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Santa Gopeshwar, Prabhu.
Prabhu, one question. In this verse which we were reading to, it is mentioned that although fixed in his abode, which means that he never leaves his abode, right?
Although what?
Although he is fixed in his abode, Krishna, when he is fixed in his abode.
Yeah.
So which means he never leaves his abode, right, Prabhu?
That is correct.
So Prabhu, when we hear these pastimes of Shridham cursing Radharani and Krishna and asking them to be separated for 100 years and so we understand, should we understand it as if their expansions or what you say, their expansions would be separated on the planet Earth, or they kind of temporarily come down? How do we understand this, Prabhu?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, does not step out of Sridham Vrindavana even one step away from Sridham Vrindavan. He's always eternally present there, right? So that is point number one, to substantiate saying that the Supreme Lord is always present in the spiritual world, meaning in Goloka Vrindavan. In fact, even when Krishna apparently says that he was in Dwaraka and he is in Mathura or in any of the other places, Krishna is actually present always in Sri Vrindavan. He never leaves Sri Vrindavan. But for the purpose of increasing the mood of separation for his devotees, which is the highest mood of love, according to what is experienced in Sri Vrindavan Dham, the Lord apparently, puts them into Yogamaya, by which they will not be able to see him being present there. Like, for example, when he invited all of them to the Rasa Mandala for the Rasa dance, and then after inviting all of them and he began the dance, he disappeared from there. So does it mean that Krishna is not there? No, Krishna was always there. How cannot he be there? Because the fundamental explanation is that the Lord is present everywhere. He is present in every Andhantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham. That is Brahma Samhita's statement, right? So Andhantarastha means he is entering the Andas, the Brahmandas, which means he is already present there in the spiritual world in every atom of it. And he says Paramanu Chayantarastham. He also enters the Parama Anu, which means the smallest of the Anu in the material world. So what to speak of the spiritual world? He is always present there. So in every Anu, Krishna is present there. There is no question of Krishna not being present there. But by his Yogamaya potency, he covers it as though they will not be able to. For example, Srimati Radharani will not be able to apparently experience the presence of Krishna there, right? So that is just to increase the experience, of that mood of separation between them. So that is the whole thing, right? The third point is about, yes, of course, so what happens to all those forms who are coming out of Vrindavan? So what are those forms? Are they less than Krishna? No, they are not less than Krishna. They are the same Krishna. They expand in various forms, like, for example, when he is in Dwaraka, when he is in Mathura, or when he is in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, or for the matter, even when he is within Vrindavana and he is killing a demon, he expands himself and kills the demon, right, in his one of his features. So that is the point. So the point is, he does that everything through the expansion. That is why Parasya Shakti Vividaiva Shruyate. How he expands, nobody can conceive, right? And then he expands into various forms, both within the spiritual world and the material world, and they are completely unlimited. And that is why he is called Anirvachaniya or Achintya. It is very difficult to conceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both in his spiritual world and also in his material expansions, Prabhu. I hope it helps,
Yes, Prabhu. No, my only my question was basically, I mean, you answered my question. So so I was thinking, basically I was curious because the cursing is basically just a nimitta for this pastime, right, Prabhu? So there is no other purpose, because anyways they are not getting separated. It is just a nimitta for creating some pastime, right, Prabhu?
yeah,
Is that right?
that is correct. And also the understanding is that it is created for the purpose of the pastime. That does not mean that the other party who's experiencing the pastime knows that, oh, it is just for the moment it is being created. So actually Krishna is there. I don't have to worry about separation from Krishna. I just have to put up a drama or a show of separation. No, not like that. That is an experience. They actually understand that the Lord actually disappears from there. If he disappears, he disappears. So by the Yogamaya potency, he makes it. Like, for example, we see the example of Srimati Yashoda. When she sees Krishna's mouth with full of mud, but actually she is seeing the entire creation within his mouth. And then immediately Krishna covers her through Yogamaya potency. Of course, Srimati Yashoda is definitely a very exalted personality, which means she understands the nature of the Lord, that the Lord is always present in the Supreme God. So how, for that moment, if she is just in that conception, she should not be worried about Krishna. Oh, Krishna is here. Oh, he went to the this thing. No, he's the Supreme Personality of God, and he will anyway come back. We all know that. No, she's not in that mood. Always she is covered by the Yogamaya potency, by which she will be able to experience that real separation, that real love, and that real this thing. So that is how the Yogamaya potency works. So now it's very difficult to explain. That is why the scriptures say it is anirvachaniya, that cannot be understood. Like, for example, we have the material world, the cosmic manifestation. Now the cosmic manifestation is the material creation, and then there is a spiritual creation, which is the Vaikuntha. The Vaikuntha is literally about 1 crore yojanas away from the material world. Right now, these are only the Vaikuntha planets, and then there is Goloka. Goloka is about 50 crore yojanas away from Vaikuntha or above Vaikuntha. Now, these are all inconceivable. Now, if you today go to Sri Vrindavan Dham, if you want to go from Vrindavan to Nandagram, or if you want to go to the place of Srimati Radharani, right? Materially, the distance is so far. How is it possible that Krishna was present there, and in the next moment he's present here in Nandagram and he's present there? How is it possible? And these are all explained by the acharyas, that in the spiritual world, everything works completely different, right? How does it work? It works in a way that it is, entire spiritual world. If you sing this, on the other day when I was joining this class, Mataji was singing this beautiful song, Vrindavana Ramya Sthana. First of all, the sthana is not an ordinary sthana. It is not the same sthana as where we are in the material world. It is Ramya Sthana. Vrindavana Ramya Sthana, Divya Chinta, and then there are 100,008 petals, and then there are 1,000,008 petals, and like that, there are the petals of the lotus that are expanding. Now, Krishna is in this one petal. He's there sitting in the Ratana Mandira. What is the second verse? Can somebody just remind me on that? It says, no, before that.
Tara Madhye.
Yeah, so it says, Tara Madhye Hema Pita, Ashtadhale Beshtita. Tara Madhye Hema Pita means a golden, throne is there. And then Ashtadhale Beshtita, there are Ashtadhale, there are 8 petals there. Tara Madhye Ratnasane Boshiyachir Dujhane. Shama Shange Shundari Radhika. In Shama Sangha, and Radhika is sitting right there in a Ratna Simhasana, which is made of gold, Hema Pita. So there is a platform of gold and there is a Ratna Simhasana that is there, and both of them are sitting there. So when they are there, and if they want to be transformed from one place to other, the other day Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj was explaining that one lotus, Krishna will be there, and if he wants to be in Nandagram, that lotus will bend like this and then place him in Nandagram. And then the other lotus will bend like this and put him in Varshana. And then it will bend back again and put him back in, in the forest, like that. That is how the spiritual world works. Now, if we have to experience this by, oh, Prabhu, this all looks like fiction, how do I understand it? Well, that is what is Achintya Gunaswarupam. His nature is Achintya. It's very difficult to understand.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Jagan Prabhu, do you want to add anything?
Sorry. No, Prabhu. No, Prabhu. I think time is up. You have finished the purport?
Yes, Prabhu, I finished the purport. Yes, I have.
Yeah, I think if we can quickly 1 minute to 2 minute brief on today's shloka and summary, I think that'll be good. As
Sure, Prabhu. Why don't we have one of the listeners summarize it? That will be nice to hear from them. So other than Jagan Prabhu, anybody else who wants to quickly bring about some points, what we heard today? Anybody, any 1 or 2 points, if each one of us can do, then I think it's a good way to recollect what we have learned today.
I'll try, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Vasant Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhu. So the understanding Krishna's inconceivable potency is like a very tough, even for the yogis and jnanis, which has been mentioned from the Brahma Samhita, like a 5.34 and 37. Then because we cannot measure with our mind or even the wind, so it would be impossible for us to realize only with the bhakti we can understand Krishna. we cannot understand Krishna by the mental speculation. Like that was one nice point, like which the takeaway for me, Prabhu, like from this today's class. And one more thing is like even the all the other potencies, like the marginal potency and the Antaranga Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti, and Tata Shakti, like that we covered in detail. Then Jagan Prabhu nicely mentioned like the Sambandha. This Shloka explains about the relationship with Lord, like for us. Then the last two last para, like very nicely explained, where even like the living entity is a part and parcel of Shri Krishna, but like the living entity should not forget his activity, like that also been the Lord's will only. But being that, like we should not take any we should not be in a complacent position, like this is Lord's will. I don't need to put my energy like to understand the Lord, because like that initiative has to be taken. So that was very eye opener, like for us today. So that is these are the points, Prabhu. Like it was very nice purport by Srila Prabhupada, like we are indebted and very nicely explained, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. Your last point is a very nice point and an important point, that we see that even our forgetfulness, mataha smritir jnanam apohanam cha, Krishna gives us forgetfulness. So Krishna, you are the one who gives remembrance. You are the one who gives forgetfulness. Now you put me in forgetfulness, so let me just stay in forgetfulness. No, that is not the way to think. We have to see that we have to get out of this forgetfulness, right? And be established in remembrance and be established in knowledge, more importantly, so that we will be able to ultimately attain the destination of what we are supposed to, as warned by Sri Isopanishad. That's a very good point that you brought about, Vasant Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else?
Prabhu, you also mentioned about the position of demigods. That was one point that you mentioned, Prabhu.
Yes. What did we mention about the demigods?
That they are the what to say, order carriers of the Supreme Lord. They are the administrative task of this universe. So whatever rain or any other element that is being controlled over here, that is because it is under the supreme control of the Supreme Lord, and they are just following his order.
Absolutely. Wonderful point, Prabhu. Thank you, Sant Kubeshwar.
And they are also part of the marginal energy. So that also very nice thing mentioned in the purport, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Wonderful. Thank you, Vasant Prabhu. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, and only we can understand about the Lord by surrendering mode only, Prabhu. Tatvidhi pranipadena pariprashnena sevaya. Then only we will be able to get that intelligence, so that we can understand the Lord the way how we have to understand Him.
Excellent.
Merely by our mental concordination or by speculation, Upanishads also says that we should not be going in that way. That will be misguiding with our limited intelligence, trying to know about the Lord.
Very nice, Mataji. So, just by our mental speculation, we will not be able to understand Krishna, but we saw the words Tadvidhi Pranipatena. There was also the point that one has to hear from Krishna. And how we can hear from Krishna? Either we can hear directly from Krishna or his bona fide representative, who is in the same line, who has also seen the truth. And that is where we saw Tattvadarshina. Thank you, Srimati.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Today morning, my wife listened to one of the one of the shlokas of Balakanda being told by one devotee in
TTD channel.
TTD channel. She wanted to share about demigods. So I know we are running out of time. Only 2 minutes. She will explain, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So just one word which I like to is Prabhu. He is stating Devaloka is like customer care service. Yeah. So our needs and all, when we pray, then they will take care of the things. By serving the Lord, they will get that energy and they take care of our needs. So that the word he used, I like the customer care service.
Explain that Chinna Shishu.
Yeah, and he was telling when the baby it start and like a small thing into the mother's womb, and how it grow into the complete child. In that the process, all these devatas These Panchaputas, they help how the baby to grow into the child. He was nicely explaining that. I liked actually.
Wonderful, Mataji.
Yeah.
I think other important thing that he told is we should not think that the place of devatas is only to enjoy and get the sense gratification. While we have the facilities to do that, while they also have the facilities to do that, they have a very big responsibility or caregivers, order suppliers, and helping to facilitate our growth, nourishment in the material world by doing things in a reasonable good order through Prakriti. So they have a huge thing, and all the demigods and devatas and all the expansions of the Lord are very important. Important. So today actually I was reading this, of course, not directly connected to demigod, but I was reading Nityananda Charitamrita. In one place, it describes. The people who this is actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he's about to meet Nityananda Prabhu, that pastime. There's a description by Vrindavan Thakur is that sometimes people glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they don't understand Nityananda Prabhu, right? They don't glorify him, but they leave. So he gives an example that it is like those people who worship Krishna, but they don't respect Lord Shiva.
Right.
But those categories of people, no matter how much greatly they worship Krishna, but if they don't respect Lord Shiva, the doors of Yamaraja in the hell are very open. This is the description. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted people during his lifetime to know about Nityananda Prabhu and his glories. So that's why he enacted many pastimes so that people come to know. Otherwise, people may easily misunderstand him. So like that, it's important to know that aspect also. Hare Krishna.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
especially the position of Lord Shiva to understand, is very important, as to how great a personality he is. We see that in the descriptions of the pastimes in Sri Vrindavan Dham, as to how the Lord is always hankering to, Lord Shiva is hankering to bring everybody to bring to the lotus feet of Krishna, right? What an important role that he plays. And to understand that not in an immature way try and distinguish between them. They don't have separate goals. They all have the same, the ultimate destination. So it's very important. So thank you, Prabhu. Thanks for sharing. I think it's 7:47. So from my side, I stop here. Prabhu, I hand it over back to you for whatever is the next.
Hare